Welcome again to Davison Orchards. Beautiful May 3rd morning, and the blossoms are really moving now with the warm weather that we're having. It's just fantastic for blossom, actually. The last time that I spoke with you folks was to do a video about our peaches, and that was back in February. And if you saw that, we took some clippings out of the peach trees and warmed them up in some water, trying to see if the blossoms were alive. And again, we had some terrible cold weather in November and December of 22 that did some damage to those blossoms. So here I am back in one of our peach blocks, and this happens to be Red Havens. These trees are about 18 years old. So they're some of our older trees. And what we should be seeing is on all these shoots. Now this block has been pruned, and we've pruned quite heavily. Every one of these little shoots should also have flowers, but as we anticipated, the winter did kill many of the flowers. You have to look really hard. There's probably less than 1% of the flowers that are alive. The interesting thing is we do have some younger blocks of peaches that are kind of in that 3 to 5 year old stage. They have got a much higher percentage of live flower. Here we are looking at a block of Red Haven again. So same variety as the trees we just looked at, only these trees are only about 6 years old. And so if you can look in here and see there is a higher percentage of live flowers. There's certainly still dead buds, like they're shooting out here with no flowers. But the reality is these young trees have got enough flowers for almost a full crop. Part of the factor in less cold damage here is that the hill is very steep. It's hardly manage it with four-wheel drive tractors. But the great thing about the hillsides is that the cold air doesn't sit on them and kill the tree and the buds. The cold air moves, even in the depth of winter. So it's a little warmer spot, a little younger trees, and we're very excited to have the potential for some peaches on these. This happens to be Aurora Golden Gala, which is a super popular variety for us. But in the winter, we talked about why all the leaves were frozen on the trees. And people were asking, like, are they gonna come off or what's gonna happen? And you can see here, there's still dead leaves hanging onto the tree. The new shoots are coming out. And actually, up until about 10 days ago, they were still covered in leaves. But it was obvious they weren't going to come off on their own, so we actually went through with a blower and spent several days literally trying to blow leaves off. And the Aurora and Ambrosia were probably the worst, but anyway, it's a situation that I've actually never seen in 40 years, but the blower worked fabulous, so we're really happy because now we're at blossom. First blossom in the middle is open. That's what we call the king bloom. And the king bloom always opens first in every cluster. So there's kind of one flower open in each cluster. That's the king bloom. I think in probably 4 or 5 days, by the 8th to 10th of May, we should be in full bloom on the apples. We're standing here in some Bartlett trees. These are old trees, probably around 30 years old, but very productive, and we're in full bloom. So you can see there's a really heavy bloom on these Bartletts. They look fabulous. So to give you an idea, they don't all bloom at the same time. Peaches are in full bloom right now, Bartletts and Anjou pears in full bloom. Apricots are actually finished. So we did have a nice bloom on the apricots. They're all done. And then if you swing over to the apples, as we were talking about earlier, we're just getting the first blossoms opening now. The bee activity in these trees is amazing. So if we just stop and focus on a tree, you'll just see literally hundreds of bees. You can hear them. Actually, you can hear the hum of the bees in these pears. I guess I just get excited about blossom time because it's the hope of a whole new season and the hope of that new crop that's coming.